Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. It's good to see you guys. I'm just trying to get everything set up on my iPad over here. That way we'll be ready to go. We'll be ready to go. But welcome in if you guys are new to the channel. Hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Tanya or Titanium Built. Thank you for joining me for this live. And if you're a returning Titan and you're coming back and joining me for another live, thank you for doing that as well. I appreciate it. So thank you guys for being here. And do I have all my lights on? Yeah, I do. I always feel like I'm like not prepared. Like I'm not ready around me because I always come in here and sit down and I just like start doing stuff. So welcome in. Hey, Ladybug. I saw Willows is going to be busy tonight, but hopefully she'll be on the replay crew. And Kira, I think she said she's going to get herself a good night's sleep. I hear you there. That's why I came on early. So I could do that as well. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Willows. I appreciate that. Is like so much. That helps so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for gifting 5 memberships, Mary Beth. That was very nice of you. I don't know who they went to. Oh, here it is. Adjust Your Focus, Barbara, Hot Mess Express, Kara, and Gina Marie. Well, welcome on in, everybody. And thank you very much. Mary Beth, that's very nice of you. Yeah, and make sure your gifts are on if you don't have them turned on, Willows. Hey, Adriana. I was like, what? When I first read comment, sorry. Hey, Lauren. In real time. Yes. My times have been a little here, a little there, a little everywhere. Hey, Kitsy Cats. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here last night. I appreciate that. Hey, Lena. That's my niece's name. Hey, Triple L. Hey, Lenora. It's good to see everybody. And I don't even know if I said hello to Mary Beth. Hello, Mary Beth. Hey, Tipsy Gypsy. Well, thank you guys all for being here tonight. I do appreciate you so much. We'll go ahead and we'll get into it. We're going to cover there was actually two things I wanted to cover, but I think we'll cover one and then we'll cover the other tomorrow on the live. Because we have a new podcast that came out, and I didn't realize that I've been looking on these podcasts. I promise y'all, I've been staying up with these, and there was like no episodes. Well, then all of a sudden it was like boom, boom, boom. There was like 3 episodes in the Idaho Massacre podcast that we were listening to. We've done, I think, 2 different podcasts, but the one I'm talking about is the one that we just finished a couple months ago. So I'll put it on the community tab if you guys want to go through each episode, or if you just want to hit up the last episode. It's up to you guys. Doesn't matter to me either way. And I'll put the episode like list and tell you what they're about, and then you guys can choose. But tonight we're going to watch Stacy Chapin and one of the Middlemans. It's I can't remember the lady's name. The lady Dr. Middleman. She is going to be talking with Stacy Chapin, and they went to CrimeCon. We watched an episode that they talked to Brian Enton just last night. Well, then I saw today on Long Crime right before the live, like a couple hours ago, they posted something, and I'm like, my head was spinning, because for the longest time, for this whole time, since like this has been going on, since this case has been going on, Stacy and Jim have kind of been more reserved and more like, taking a back seat kind of. I don't want to say like a back seat, but they haven't been as vocal and as like in the forefront as a lot of the other families. Like, just speaking of one family in particular, the Gonzalez's, because they're the ones that have been at the forefront. I feel like Maddie's family, they've been really reserved, but I feel like with the Chapins, it was just different, because they were even saying in the beginning that they didn't even want to go to the trial, and they didn't care about who did this and all that and the other. So now it's kind of a reverse. She's reverse Unoing us right now. She's tricking us. But no, so she talked to Fox Nation. So CrimeCon was this past weekend, and they did an hour-long segment on at CrimeCon for Fox Nation or Fox News, and they put it on their Fox Nation app. They didn't put it on their Fox News station. They put a different one, though. They put the interview after this interview on it, but they didn't put this one. So we're going to watch the one that's not out there, and like, out in the ethernet or internet. And then I was going to tell you guys something else before I started this. They're going to tell us how they met. They're going to tell us like a lot of the inside details that we didn't get before through Brian Enton's reporting, because they wanted to wait until this came out. So they're going to talk about, the DNA, how it, came to play, and with the Idaho student murders. Of course, they're going to talk about their mission now going forward. You'll hear a lot of new stuff that they, that they're going to talk about that they couldn't talk about because of the gag order. And just to think their relationship started with the hug, like, a hug and it's going to be okay. So maybe now, I don't know, maybe now, like looking back, I could see maybe why she was a little more calm than some of the other family members, because maybe she just knew. So there was a new article that came out. Yeah, I love that. I do too, Lauren. I think that's really nice that she wants to help more families. And they have the resources and the funds, I feel like, to do that, and that could be something that she can put her energy into, because she probably, I don't know what she had in mind after all, all 3 of the kids would be, they'd all be graduated by now, and they would be living their own life. I don't know if she had a plan of like what she wanted to do after, the empty nest syndrome is going to be like pretty heavy there in their home. They have 3, right, that are going to be gone. This is something I think that gives her like an outlet, but I just wish I wish it wasn't like this for her, but she does seem like she really enjoys the Middleman. So, and I'm happy for them. Actually, I was going to read you that article first. So I'm going to read this article real quick. There's a plane going overhead. It's still so weird to me that planes go overhead. Like I used to live in a small town. We weren't near no airport. So I'm not near an airport now, but I guess I'm closer than I think. If there's a plane going overhead, So we had read some stuff in the documents, and now they're just kind of like spilling it out into like articles, I guess you would say. So I thought we would start off with this article, just going off of two of the college students that say that they were stalked by Brian. So we'll just take a look at this, get some people to come in, say hello to everybody, and then we'll watch the podcast. Hey, Maga Mama. Sorry, I was reading the chat. I'm like, it's been busy. Positive way, yeah, a positive way to cope. She did say that Maisie and Hunter, they both graduated, and they graduated with honors. So go them, good for them. I don't know if a lot of other kids would be that resilient. They have good family, good they just have a good. They have people that they had a lot of. I'm trying to think of the word. Not help, but they had. I can't think of the word, but they had a lot of people surrounding them, a lot of support. That's what I was trying to think of. So look at him. So two college students say they were stalked by Brian Koberger and later told police that a stranger was spying on them at home. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Banfield, oh, poor Banfield. So there was like a picture going around of Brian Koberger that was clearly edited. And it's the picture of him in the bathroom when he's like looking down on himself. And in the original photo, I just forgot to tell you guys this. I thought was funny. There's no like, you can't see the picture, like you can't see his like waistline. So somebody AI'd this image and made it to where it looked like his jeans were too tight on, and like he had these little like love handles kind of going over his jeans. And Ashley Banfield she used that as her image for her thumbnail, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it made me laugh. I was like, I don't know if she meant to do that on purpose. I don't think she did, but I think it's funnier that she did it. And I hope that he saw that. He probably doesn't get the YouTubes in there, but So two college students say they were stalked by Brian Koberger and later told police that a stranger was spying on them at home. Now, do we know if it was Brian Koberger for sure? I don't know. I'll let you guys be the judge. But it says two women told police they suspected Brian Koberger was stalking them while attending Washington State University before he murdered 4 University of Idaho students. 2 female college students told officers with the Idaho State Police that Koberger would make daily visits to them at work. I would be like, get up out of my office. I mean, what would you guys do if like the same person just kept coming in your office? I would ask him, if I'm not one of your teachers, if I'm not one of your advisors, what do you need? Like, I would really ask him that. I would. I'd say my husband is like waiting for me, and he gets really upset if I don't like not at the car right whenever I'm supposed to be off. That's what I would say. I blame it on them. It says, then the 2 women started getting unexpected visits at their homes. The first woman was an employee at the WSU bookstore who said Koberger seemed very used to being put off by women. She told police that in August or September of 2022, she was home alone one night, changing in her room, and someone knocked on her window. Pack my bags. I'm moving out. I would move out. That night, I would never go back. Nope. The woman then called her husband, and the person ran off, she said. Then it happened again. No. That would scare me. That would scare the crap out of me. I mean, I do live on the 2nd floor, so that is probably could have something to do with it. But yeah, I haven't lived on his first floor in 9 years. Wow, that's been a long time. So I guess I mean, but that would I'm gonna make sure my windows are up high. We're building. Like, I'm not doing that. They're gonna need to like Rapunzel up to get to me in my watchtower, That just is scary. Just imagine you're in your bedroom, you're changing, like you're vulnerable. That's like your bedroom is your place. Like that's like your one spot that like ain't nobody got business in there, And I'm telling you, Koberger, I know he was a little peeper. I know he was peeping. even probably when he was living at home. Because he broke into the friend's dad's house and stole all of his change, his coin collection, and like all this other stuff. Remember? And he just couldn't prove it was Kohberger, but he knew it was him at the same time. I mean, kids' parents are smart. So it says that it happened again. Another time after she started working, she heard someone moving around on her porch at approximately 7 in the evening. Her husband came home again and saw a white car leaving the area. Kohberger drove a white Hyundai Elantra. I think there isn't white cars the number one car on the road. Let me see. I guess it's not. Let me see. No, it is. The most popular car color is white, which consistently ranks as the top choice globally and in the United States, followed by black, gray, and silver. I didn't know if it would tell me how many people, like how many on the road, but you get the drift. There's a lot. There's a lot of people that drive white cars. But Kohberger also seemed to have researched her. She said this was when I read this, I was like, oh, no, that's weird. Knowing personal details about her that she never volunteered to the former criminology student. He once came in and asked for her by name. She told police, adding that she was certain she never told Kohberger her name and she doesn't wear a name tag. He'd probably be asking about who you are. That's probably what he did. He's probably like, what's her name? Kohberger even knew what hours she worked and made remarks about her hours. The other student allegedly stalked by Kohberger worked in the criminology department with him, but was an undergraduate. The student declined Kohberger's advances and informed him she was a lesbian. She told police, but that did not stop him from constantly seeking her out at work, seeing him almost daily. She doesn't even like, she doesn't like, she's not even bisexual. She's straight. She's a lesbian, Kohberger. That's a no-go, right? You know that, right? That's it. Maybe she should have explained to him what a lesbian was. Maybe he didn't know. Because, that's stupid. So, like, oh my gosh. So it says, the report also said that she was told she was not the first person to have problems with Kohberger. She recalled one night she was working late, and saw Kohberger walking outside as she was locking up. According to the report, Kohberger made eye contact with her when she looked out, which seemed strange because you would have to be looking directly at the window where she worked to make eye contact. He's just standing in the parking lot, like looking up at her office. Like I don't know. She told police she had been getting ready to lock up at the time and eventually ran and hid in the bathroom to avoid Kohberger when she saw him enter the building. I would have done the same thing. And then one day she got a phone call from a neighbor who said they saw someone very close outside her window and to make sure to lock the door. Soon after this, she learned that she lived fairly close to Kohberger. A fellow classmate of Kohberger's also recalled an incident when she felt someone was outside her window and soon after found snow footprints leading to the back window of her apartment. The classmate noted that whoever had left the footprints had backtracked within the tracks. That's just even more creepy. Your tracks are already there. Like, what are you, a ghost? Did you enter through the house? Like, could you see Kohberger doing that? I feel like I could. And welcome in, everybody. She said here that she also told police that another classmate heard someone trying to open the door to their home a few weeks prior to that incident. Kaylee Gonzalez also felt as though she was being watched and stalked in the weeks before she was murdered alongside two of her roommates and one roommate's boyfriend. One of the former roommates at the Moscow home where the victims were murdered on November 13th, 2022, told police she thought someone might harm her friends. She thought it was someone who was watching. She was always afraid of that. She always had an uneasy, weird feeling at the house, which is one of the reasons why she didn't want to go back, the report said. No. Well, I could, okay. I mean, hey, baby girl. Hola. What size were the prints? Were the shoe prints? I don't know. But isn't that weird? Like, I'm laughing because it's so weird. It's like, it's giving me the ick, you know? Like, I wish we had some snow on the ground. Almost wish we had that. And I'd go out there and try to, I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, unless you were walking slow, right? But you wouldn't want to walk slow away because you'd be afraid you'd be caught, right? But I guess he didn't care if he was caught or not. He probably just didn't care. What happened to baby girl? Got pulled over? 45 and a 30? Did you give me your phone number? I'd be like, I'm writing it right here and I'm gonna circle it just so he'll be like, I don't need your number. I'll be like, yeah, but you do. But you do. And he gave you a warning. You're lucky, girl. Shoot. I don't get lucky like that. I was doing 70, was it like 73, 74 and a 55? Oh, it was bad. It was bad. This was years ago. I was like 19. I was like 19. I remember I was 19 because I was in so much trouble. But he was like, I'm going to make it so it's 71 and a 55 because if not, you're going to get like reckless op. And I was like, oh, we don't want any of that. So I'm glad he did that for me. I'm glad that you got out of it though completely. Didn't let me get out completely. So like I said in the beginning of the live, they're just going to talk. So this is from CrimeCon. Anjanette Levy. I watched the episode that they just did on Law and Crime earlier today. It came out just this evening. She interviewed Stacy and the Miss Middleman, and she got some different answers for her questions because she, just like Brian, you know, and they wanted to save everything for this panel, like how they met and all that stuff. But we will learn about all of that tonight. And then also there was something else I was going to tell you. We're going to learn about that. I don't know. I just know that they went on a few different interviews. They're doing a campaign. I like it. Figuring it out on the way. That's what I was going to tell you. Anjanette Levy said that there were so many people that wanted to see these two women speak, like in particularly, like in, you know, out of everybody at the CrimeCon, that people were there sitting on the floor. Like they didn't even have a seat. They didn't care. They were just sitting on the floor, you know, just wanted to be in the room with these two women. And so that in itself, I mean, it's going to be, I think it's a good move. I think it's a good move. Okay, so there we go.
Thank you for being here. I am.
And then, I mean, she is a little shaky at first, but her confidence, her speak, like with speaking with the public has come such a long way, you know? She's had to literally like grow and grieve with the news. So
I'm going to get through this in just a minute.
We are going to get through this.
Yeah. We were in the back trying not to cry just through the introduction. It's good. I'm a dedicated wife and mother and a business owner and now a victim advocate. I'm particularly proud of my kids, Ethan, Maisie, and Hunter. And although most of you know, in 2022, while Ethan and his triplet siblings were attending the University of Idaho, his life was tragically cut short in a case that captured international media attention. I have channeled my love and grief by creating the Ethan Smile Foundation, which enables others to follow their dreams through scholarships. But the more important story is with the Middlemans in Othram, and I believe that Kristen and I first bonded, even though we didn't know each other, through our strong motherly love.
You're right, Stacy. My greatest role in life is being a mom to my 5 kids as well, and a wife to David. I met David at a difficult part of my life where I had also become a victim advocate and was struggling to figure out, how do you pay forward? How do you bring light into a world that has so much darkness that sometimes intersects with yours? And little did I know that I would meet the one guy that could identify these perpetrators, help victims piece back to their families, and truly make the world a safer place. But somehow science brought us together at Baylor College of Medicine. I was working on creating new models for studying retinitis pigmentosa, a blindness disorder, and David actually cured the mouse models. And so I figured if he could do that, he could probably fix anything, and I need a lot of fixing often. And so I decided to marry him and spend the rest of our life trying to bring some good into this world. I am also very, very proud of our children, and I did connect with Stacy in a way that transcends just someone that I was able to help in this case. And I do believe that our roads crossed, and this is just the beginning of our story together.
So Kristen and I actually had a chance meeting, and that's kind of where our story actually crosses paths. And it was September of 2023 at CrimeCon in Orlando. And I had been invited, and I can honestly sit here and tell you that I look back on that time and I have I honestly don't know why I was there. I mean, I'd been invited to be there, but we were only like 10 months out from losing Ethan, and Susan Hendricks had called, I don't know if she's in here right now, and invited me kind of with a promise that it would be good for this foundation that we had created. And so I reluctantly went to CrimeCon. And I'm still not sure what made me decide to go, but I was added to an advocacy group. And I went to this suite at the top of the hotel it was that evening, I believe. And I was in a room full of what I call, and I don't know if this is the right definition of it, but it was a room full of high profile crime victims' families in this room. And I literally looked around and thought to myself, what in the hell am I doing in this room? And we went around and everybody was telling their stories. I didn't know a soul in the room. Paul Holes was there, I think, kind of managing the group. And it got to me and I told my story. It was so fresh and I was, emotionally distraught, I think. But we finished, and at the end of it, I found myself being hugged by somebody that I did not know. And she had just wrapped her arms around me and was whispering in my ear. And I had to step back and say, what did you just say to me? And she said to me, you don't have to worry. And I didn't even know what it meant at the time. I literally had to leave and go Google Kristen Middleman. But she had told me something that was profoundly stuck with me for the next 2 years that we were in this case. And that's my story of how I met Kristen.
I don't usually.
I'm not telling any parent on how to act during anything, because I sure as hell cannot do that. But she told Jim, but she didn't even tell her kids. She'll say that. But if you knew, I don't know, that just, to me, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, because I'm like, if that might have been why she was so like chill. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to the trial. We are like, they just had this different aura about them, And I'm wondering if it was this lady from Othram giving her this hug and saying, hey, everything's going to be all right. Maybe we could have given that hug to like a group hug to every family member. That would have been nice.
Walk around hugging strangers.
Because I think that's why some family members might have been like, and and let's just name them. Okay. Like the Gonzalezes, they were like, hey, the police ain't doing shit. Nobody's doing shit. We got to get stuff on our own. Like, you know, they were more like in your face and like, you know, going after stuff, to where this whole family, they were more like, they were mourning it. And I don't know, they were mourning it in a different way, I guess you could say.
And telling them not to worry. I just want to make that clear. Actually, I mostly keep to myself, and also questioned why I ended up in that room that day. Anyone that knows me in this audience knows that I go nowhere without David or at least one of my friends to make sure that I'm not alone or in a situation where I feel out of control. And so, but I had decided for whatever reason to go to that room, and to go to that room alone that day. And I did not expect that Stacy would tell her story and be there, let alone 3 people over for me. And the way that she told her story, from minute one, this woman was filled with so much grace and love, and I could feel her love for her children. I could feel her love for Ethan in the way she spoke, and I could feel her pain. I felt that she needed to know it was going to be okay. And there was a gag order. I didn't even want to be at CrimeCon that year because of the gag order, that everyone in the world was talking about this case. And I had information. We were working the case from the very beginning. I knew exactly where it was in the investigation. But because of the gag order, the people that were discussing the case were the people that weren't involved in the case. The families couldn't publicly discuss how they felt. The investigators investigating the case couldn't discuss what was going on in the investigation. Us that were helping with the DNA technology couldn't discuss the technology helping with the case. And so what had happened is there was so much speculation. People that were all over the media talking about this case were inferring information that was largely incorrect. And I'm the kind of person that stands up for justice daily. And so when I hear something that's wrong, I like to write that, and I like to correct the record. And so I felt like being at CrimeCon was going to be a challenging moment for me, in that I couldn't say anything and I couldn't right any of the wrongs. But in that moment, I knew that I had to say something to Stacy. I knew that I couldn't walk out of that room, and I felt like I couldn't walk out of the room fast enough because I was so overwhelmed by the emotion that was in that room at that minute. But I had to walk up to Stacy and say that it was going to be okay. And I did.
Then she's like, now I got to go find my husband and tell him what I did. Just kidding.
So we're going to just step back a little bit, because our paths kind of indirectly cross again at Thanksgiving of 2022. My story begins with a phone call. I was grocery shopping. It was a beautiful Sunday. It was noon. My kids were happy. My life felt like we were moving forward. And I received a phone call standing in the produce department of the grocery store. And it was Maisie. And I don't know, if you have kids, you have certain ways that you communicate with your kids. And a phone call from my daughter isn't how we communicate. But I hung it up, and her number called right back again. And I thought, that's kind of weird. I better answer it. And it was Hunter, my son Hunter, who was the one who had to call and tell us that Ethan wasn't here. And it was really hard for him because he could not say it. He just kept saying on the phone that day, Mom, Ethan's not here. And he just repeated himself, Ethan's not here. And I kept saying to him, well, go and get him. Go and get him. I mean, it made perfect sense. And he would say, you don't understand. He's not here. And to the point where I was like, go and get him then. I mean, and he finally said to me, no, you don't understand, Mom. Ethan and Xana are not on this earth anymore. So
That's awful that her son had to do that. and there wasn't officers like separating them kids and not letting them on the phone first and foremost, maybe just for like a minute, just so they could tell the parents. Because you got Maddie's parents on the way to, Moscow. You've got Kaylee's parents sitting tight, trying to figure out, is someone going to come up to our door and tell us like what's going on? And then, you've got the Chapins, like, well, Mrs. Chapin anyway, she's in the grocery store. So it would just been, I know that they all are in different like towns, but it would have been no thing for these cops, I feel like, to call these other agencies and been like, I need you to go find this person right now. Like, drop whatever you're doing, go find them, make sure they're seated, and tell them is what's going on. Because this news is crazy to hear. I couldn't imagine being a parent hearing this kind of stuff in the middle of the grocery store from your child.
I left my grocery cart there in the middle of the produce department and ran out of the grocery store, and I called Jim, and that was the toughest thing that I've ever had to do. And we met at our warehouse. We had to go to LaConner, Washington, take care of our dog. I mean, it was all these things had to happen. But what happened next is that we had to get into the car and we had to make this journey. And I will tell you that that is the second maybe toughest thing I've ever done in my life, is to drive in the car that day. So there were a couple of things that happened. One, we got caught behind a traffic accident just outside of Everett. So we're sitting there. And at that time, our kids' phones had all been confiscated and our kids had been taken to the police department. So we had no communication with our kids. And
at that point, they should have never ceased communication. They should have at least had the kids in a room where there was a phone that they could use to call their parents, give them their cell phones. They get their numbers out of their cell phones. If you need to take the phones and download the data, that's understandable. Or you don't want them texting each other's friends, friends texting friends. I can understand that. But for these kids, they should have been able to call their parents. I mean, they're 20, but that's it. Like 2021, I would have been wanting to call my mama right away. I'd have been like, you better be here. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for gifting a membership. Tish got it. Thank you. So nice of you.
But I couldn't get anybody to answer at the, police department. At this point, it had spread like wildfire. People were calling us. And then most of the end of that trip is in what we call in Washington State, the Palouse. And there is no cell service. So on top of, everything else, we had no cell service. Anyways, we pulled into Moscow that night at about 9:30, picked our kids up. We had to go to the police station and have a meeting. And we wound up, they put us all up in a hotel that night. And the four of us laid in this hotel room. And there wasn't a lot of sleep that happened that night, but early in the morning, I got up. I told Jim, I'm going for a walk. And I walked to the house. My son was still there.
Aww.
In it. And I just stood outside of it for a little bit. But anyways, no, it's good. It's good. Sorry, everybody. But I just want you to know, the intimate detail part of what happened. Anyways, we left Moscow on Monday and we drove to Priest Lake, Idaho. We have a house in Priest Lake, and it was beautiful because nobody knew where the Chapin family was. And at that point, the thing had hit the media stands. And we really just circled our wagons. We actually immediately planned a memorial service for him. Hopped on the road on Wednesday. We're now 1 week prior to Thanksgiving of that year. We hopped on the road on Wednesday. And on that day was the same day that Ethan was being taken from Spokane, Washington, from his autopsy home. And I was so concerned about driving, because we had to drive Priest Lake is also a 7-hour trip back to our home in Mount Vernon. And I was so concerned that we were going to come upon a white Suburban on our trip home that day. But we didn't. But that was my greatest concern that day on that Wednesday. Anyways, we had the memorial. Was on Monday of the week of Thanksgiving because it was a way to get all of the kids there. And I remember telling Jim and I were like, we just don't know that many people. But then, I don't know, there was just thousands of people. It was crazy. It was beautiful, actually. I don't know that we could go back and know what we know now and plan a better memorial for him. And then it was over, and it was 3 days to Thanksgiving, which is about 10 days post loss of our son. And I was feeling very much like I had nothing to give thanks for Thanksgiving. And so I called my best friend, who happens to be sitting here in the audience, and I am like, okay, we're not celebrating Thanksgiving. She goes, great, we'll just have tacos at the house and play it like it didn't happen, or, obviously. So on that day, for a day that we were not giving, I don't want to say not giving thanks, because I'm never not thankful, but it felt daunting to give thanks on that Thanksgiving. Come to find out, which is part of the story, is the Middlemans were
Working.
also doing their thing on Thanksgiving, and our paths kind of indirectly cross again.
So for us, the story started with a phone call.
Okay. Okay. Take a look at this picture. I didn't know if they were going to show it. Okay. Tell me. I'm sorry. That was really sad. And that, like, I gotta break it up though. I'm glad they shared this picture. This was on Law and Crime today, and I laughed for 5 solid minutes. I wish that you could see the footing, because the stupid banner's in the way, but this kid's foot looks like it's just in an unnatural position. And I get it. They're trying to get them like playing, and they're like, they're supposed to be standing still in the chaos of the kids, I guess, around them. I get the premise, but it falls flat for me. I don't know. It looks like he's about to take her neck off. I'm like, what are you doing to her? But I saw this on Law and Crime. I literally laughed. I don't know why. I think it's because this little girl's stepping up on a branch. This little boy, I wish you could see how unnatural his feet are. Like, one is like this, and then one is like this. And I'm just like, what is going on with this picture? I'm no photographer, but I know, I get the premise. It's like a bunch of chaos, and then they're like in the middle of it. I think that's what it's supposed to mean anyway.
Everyone
Like
in the
the
United
parents having
States had
kids.
heard of the case at this point. It was all over the news.
But they have 5.
David and I were in bed late at night. It was the week of Thanksgiving. I believe it was Monday night. And we got a phone call, and David answered. It was the Idaho State Police forensic scientist. And he said, would you guys be able to work on a case quickly? And how quickly does your technology work? And we had worked with this scientist in the past. We had worked with them on several other cold cases in the state of Idaho. And so he knew our technology worked. He knew it was purpose-built for this. But he wanted to know, would it work in an active investigation? How fast can you identify someone from their DNA left at a crime scene? And David, being the scientist that he is, didn't want to give an actual answer. He wanted to call the lab and find out what was already in the sequencers, what other cases were there, and give him an exact answer as to how fast we could build this DNA profile from the perpetrator's DNA left at the crime scene. It was interesting that never in that phone call were we told that this was the case that they were inquiring about, but I knew. In my heart, I knew that this was the case.
Well, didn't she say Idaho State Police called her? If Idaho State Police is calling you, you're going to know exactly what case they're talking about. I mean, it's the biggest case in the country, let alone for Idaho.
So as soon as David got off the phone, he started calling everyone at the lab, trying to figure out how fast we could do this. Called back and said, I can say that we can build this profile in 48 hours or less. And they said, okay, we'll be back in touch. And that was the end of that conversation. I told David that
2 days.
he should have maybe pushed to talk to someone else and not just let it go. And he said, no, law enforcement will do what they need to do. We don't know what's going on with the investigation. We'll hear back if we need to. So I continued to go about our lives for the rest of the week. My daughter, Sarah, was 20 years old and a sophomore in college that year. She had just come home for Thanksgiving, and we were taking our family photos, which is actually right here with the 5 kids in the forest right by our office in the Woodlands, when we got a phone call that said the evidence had arrived at the airport in Houston and it was being escorted to the laboratory and we needed to quickly run back. David and I told the kids that they could drive home with her sister. We usually don't let the kids drive with their siblings, but we said, Sarah's going to take you home and we need to go back to work. We rushed back to the office. And it's funny, David and I, anyone that knows David and I, we don't dress alike. I'm always in a suit or a blazer,
I
and
noticed
David's
that.
always in a t-shirt. But we both walked in with our green sweatshirts, and everyone was like, "What happened? What's going on?" I'm like, oh gosh, they have no idea what's about to happen. And we sat down, looked at each other, told our very small nuclear team that Moscow PD, as well as someone from Idaho State Police, was coming down with the evidence, and that the next hour was going to determine whether they allowed us to work on this case.
And Othram's in Texas. So this wasn't just like a little trip, you know what I mean? Like they traveled with this for a minute.
We had to do a tour of the lab, show them everything we do, walk them through the chain of custody, and discuss the technology with them. And then ultimately they were going to make the decision to leave the DNA at the laboratory or not. That felt like a lot of pressure for me. That was the first moment where I felt like we can help. I know we can help. I know the technology to help exists today. But if we don't do a good job conveying it over the next few minutes, they may just walk away with that sample. And this person gets away with this crime, at least for the near future. So we all just sat down and as they walked through the lab, did the best we could to try to explain what we were doing. And at the end, they made the phone call and they said, we're leaving the DNA, and they left. And that's where it all started for us. David started calling all of the people that needed to work on this case. And we couldn't disclose to our employees, and often we don't disclose to our employees what case they're working on, depending on what part of the process they're on, because we don't want any confirmation bias in the entire process. And so we just told them, there is an active case and we need you to come to work over Thanksgiving. Would you be willing to do that? And it was shocking to me, but also very heartwarming that everyone said yes. No one even hesitated. They all just dropped what they were doing for Thanksgiving, canceled their plans, and came into the office to work on building this DNA profile, uploading it to databases, and starting to work on the genealogy. And I looked at David and I said, we've really built an awesome team of not just amazing scientists, genealogists, engineers, but people that truly care about what we're doing here every single day. And I guess something I'll say about Othram is most of us have either been affected by crime or have someone close to us that has been affected by crime and realize how important it is to change the status quo. The status quo truly isn't suffice. It's not solving every case out there, and it needs to. And so the heart of the team showed up and they worked around the clock. No one thought about anything else for the next 48 hours. And as we sat at the Othram Cafe, which there's a picture up there, as we sat at the table that I showed you when you came down, we talked about how someone's missing their loved one and needs an answer today, and quickly needs an answer. And it did feel like a full circle moment to hear Stacy tell me that they were missing their loved one and didn't have Thanksgiving either that day. And so in the parallel universe, we lived similar paths.
Yeah. This was one more. This is in their labs.
So this is what happened in the lab. There's a lot of stuff out there about the DNA in this case, and I will tell you that there was a CODIS STR profile built by Idaho State Police Forensic Sciences very early on, that profile was derived from the knife sheath DNA found at the crime scene. And they entered that profile into CODIS very quickly, and there was no hit, no match. For anyone that doesn't know, CODIS is the database of known perpetrators in the United States. When you build an STR profile, you're building a DNA profile that has 20 STR markers. And when you upload to that known perpetrator database, you have a hit to yourself or maybe a very close relative, like a parent, child, or direct sibling. There was no match to the DNA found at this crime scene, and there were 19,000 tips that had come into law enforcement even that early on with no real lead, so there was no other perpetrator to test. And so it was a DNA dead end. No one knew where to go from that. And that's when our technology comes into play. At Othram, we built something called forensic grade genome sequencing. We're able to take DNA from a crime scene and build a DNA profile that has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of markers, almost 1 million markers at times. And so when you upload that type of DNA to a genealogical database consented for law enforcement use, you're able to get really distant relationships, 6th cousins, 5th cousins, 4th cousins. And so what you see is you don't see a single match, you see hundreds of matches pop up. And those hundreds of matches can then be put onto family trees, and you can start to trace back someone's identity. At Othram, we've built software to help us do that quickly, to help us pull information from the public records, and to help the process happen more streamlined and quicker, and to allow others to help work on that as well. And so in this case, the DNA that was tested for CODIS was brought down to us as an extract. We were able to start with that extract and build one of these profiles. The profile was built overnight. The next morning, we had uploaded it to the genealogical databases that we are in charge of, like Family Tree DNA and DNA Solves. We were able to start to see these matches form. And very quickly, we knew that even though the matches were quite distant, people were right about that in the media, there were not close matches. The biogeographical ancestry of this person actually helped us narrow down who he could be. We knew that this person was multi-generationally from the United States, their family was, and more specifically Pennsylvania. And we knew that he had a specific Italian background in his DNA. That's something I think it's important for people to know. DNA can give you many clues. And so the clue for us was how many Pennsylvania families had this Italian background, and there were only 2.
There was only 2.
And so it helped us shortcut to the part of the tree.
What kind of Italian background are we talking? Where's Catherine? She's in here. Catherine, how many Italian multi-generational families do you think there are in Pennsylvania? You're from New Jersey, right? New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I'm going to say there's a lot. What kind of Italian would Koberger be? What other Italians are there? Like, I mean, like how many in total? Like different. I'll be looking that up. Okay, we're going to play her while I'm looking it up.
That was more important for this investigation. We started to give information back to law enforcement as quickly as possible. And then it became very clear that the investigation was going to span several states. Law enforcement started to bring in federal agencies to start helping with the collecting of the DNA, target testing, and figuring out who actually left the DNA at that crime scene. I think it's important to note this technology supercharges your investigation because it's giving you information about who left DNA at a crime scene, whether perpetrator or victim, or maybe someone that wasn't involved in the investigation. But that is for law enforcement to figure out. It's someone that was there at the time of the crime. And so we don't do the investigative part of this. Law enforcement then takes those clues and contextualizes it within their investigation. And so I'm not going to speculate as to how they contextualized all the clues, but somehow along the investigation, they were able to figure out that that white Elantra had Pennsylvania plates. There were only a few white Elantras with Pennsylvania plates or a Pennsylvania driver in the state of Idaho at the time. They were able to figure out that One of those white Elantras with the Pennsylvania plates actually filed to change their license plates right after, 5 days after the crime. They pulled up driver's licenses, they had eyewitness sketches, and they were able to confirm that it was very likely that the people that fit on our family tree were actually involved in the investigation.
Me too. I am
Law
too.
enforcement was able to go collect DNA and confirmed Kohlberger's identity as 100% match to or 1 in 17 quintillion, whatever CODIS gives you, match to the DNA found on the knife sheath at that crime scene.
So we're going to jump ahead now. So remember that Kristen and I only had ever hugged
Nice,
years
Chantal.
ago. And we're going to jump ahead to the day that the gag order was lifted on our case. And within minutes, because I remember exactly where I was, my phone rang and it was an unknown number, but it said it might be the Middlemans. And it was instantaneous. I mean, the minute that gag order was lifted, and the phone call was the greatest thing because it started the part that we fulfilled the promise of the hug, right? Going back to the hug, it was like, this is all going to be okay. And Jim and I felt like it was important to meet these people immediately. We hopped a flight to Houston. You know, they're the company that identified the DNA in our case, and that felt like something that we needed to get involved in if we could. We needed to meet the people behind the work that were involved in it. It was an incredible case, or it was an incredible trip for us. I think what's important about our case is that because it's so well known, unfortunately, it is a good use for a platform for advocacy because it's a family and a face that has been impacted directly by the company and the Middlemans and the company that is Othram and all of the people that work there. Trying to figure out how everybody could get a hug from Kristen is something that we joke about because obviously that isn't going to happen. But that victims' families potentially should know or have access to the fact that maybe Othram is involved in their case and in the testing of the DNA in their case. Like if all we would have known was that there had been a positive identification of a perpetrator, the DNA on the knife sheath, and nothing more, it would have put everybody a little bit more at ease and stopped some of what, you know, the online stories that have, if you're following this thing, are shocking, to be honest with you.
Shocking is an understatement what people have come up with in this case. The disinformation is what gets me. Not just the misinformation. When they purposely put it out, that's when it's really harmful. I mean, misinformation's harmful too, but at least you can come back and maybe, you know, take the video down and apologize, like, hey, I got that wrong. But, and it not be like, don't be saying some crazy stuff that's been out there. But, you know, I feel like for the most part, this channel, we've done a pretty good job of covering this case.
So advocating for victims' families, for future victims' families that unfortunately are going to be put into the same case as our family is part of the advocacy platform that we're working on to take place, but also that all law enforcement needs access to this advanced forensic DNA technology. Because it does make the world a safer place to think that a perpetrator might think twice about getting caught, because it is, I don't know the easier, but more accessible to test DNA this day and age.
So when Stacy answered the phone and was excited to hear from us, it was a full circle moment for me, for David, because we could finally talk to the person that is our why, right? We built Othram because we want to give families and victims the answers they need as quick as possible. We want to see them get justice as quick as possible. We work many, many cold cases at Othram, and in here today, there are a couple families that we work their cold case, even detectives that we work cold cases with. There's one family, Jim Walker is in here today, and he is Carla Walker's brother. That was a case that took 47 years to be able to use this technology and get an answer. And for 47 years, Jim lived in the same house. Jim went back to the site of the crime to try to intersect the perpetrator. He did everything he could to figure out what happened with his sister. He never gave up, worked with law enforcement all the time, and couldn't move the case forward. And it took over his life. That's often what these crimes do. When you don't have the answers, you become obsessed in trying to figure them out.
I wonder if the perpetrator was like dead after that many times, after all those years, or if he was still alive. Can you imagine you get away with something for 47 years? You have got to think you got away with it forever at that point. After, I don't know. I would think people would start to relax after about 10 or 15, 20 years. 47, that's like a whole lifetime.
When Othram's involved, it's never good news, right? We're involved after the crime has already been committed. But to be able to give these families answers quickly, to be able to give them the ability to know that the perpetrator is now behind bars, to know that Stacy wouldn't have to spend years looking around and wondering if whomever harmed Ethan would come back for her other children or someone else that she cared about. That means the world to me. That is why Othram built the technology that we built. And so to be able to have her say, yes, I'm going to come down and visit and meet the team, I knew how much that would mean to our team too. Yeah. I knew how much, how important it would be to everyone. And so when she came down, I was nervous and excited to show her what we were doing at Othram. I was maybe more nervous to meet you than to talk to law enforcement on this case.
Yeah, we've actually been back twice now. I had the pleasure of bringing my daughter Maisie with me on the second trip, and it was neat for her to see it all.
Yeah, and I hope you keep coming back because it's incredible to have you there. But getting to see Stacy came in just as Stacy, I expected Stacy to be. She had a list of questions and she wanted to know everything about how it worked, how we were involved, what happened. And we tried to answer the questions the best we could. But I think in the couple of days that you spent there with us, we showed her how much this means to us. And we showed her that this technology is working to do this every single day. There are cases that announce every single day solved. Yesterday, we announced 5 cases, I think, while we were here at CrimeCon. And if any of you went to David's talk yesterday, you saw he put up a sentence that said, solving a crime is a choice. And it is, at this point, a choice. Yes, prior to forensic grade genome sequencing and all of the software and technology that Othram has brought forth, you could be at a DNA dead end, and there's nothing you can do with your case. And if the DNA is consumed or there is no DNA evidence at your case, we can't help. But for the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cases where, if not millions, where there is a violent crime and there is DNA still left over, there is hope because this technology works, and it works predictably for most of those cases.
Why can't we use this on the John Benet Ramsey case?
At Othram, we have vowed never to consume evidence or budgets because we know how limited both of those are, unless we're certain that we can build one of these DNA profiles and actually help with the identity. I hope that Stacy and I are successful in advocating that everyone has to stick to those standards. It's not okay just to test DNA evidence at a crime scene, because if you run the DNA and you don't get an answer, you're not doing it in a predictable manner, you're failing someone from getting justice. And if you're solving a few cases, but you're destroying the evidence for several hundred others, I would argue that you're not helping criminal justice, rather you're hurting it, because those perpetrators are getting away with that crime. They know that, and they go out and they commit the next crime. I hope that in the next few years, we purpose-built technology that has the same standards that medicine has. This is sequencing, just like you sequence in medical trials to figure out what type of cancer treatment to give someone, or whether someone has a mutation that'll cause a certain disease or not, right? And when you do that in medicine, you have to show that you have a certain amount of certainty that you're going to get an accurate answer. There should be the same requirement in forensics. The DNA isn't something we can go get more of. It's gone after you do this type of sequencing. And so to me, I hope that we live in a world where labs like Othram, all of us, have to have a certain minimum standard of success. And it's not success if you can't help solve that case. And so you guys see our hexagons. They're behind us in this picture. Those hexagons, we always put the picture of the victim in there, or the victims in the crime, because that's why we do what we do. It's a carbon ring of life, and then it tells their story, because DNA somehow played a role in getting them justice or the answer. But the hexagons mean even more than that to us. They are the picture of a case solved, a case with an answer. And just running a case or just doing a DNA test, even though that's a great way to run a business, is not suffice. It's only an answer when you get that solved. And so I hope everyone starts to be held to those metrics. If you guys at all feel compelled to, please write to your senators, your representatives, and tell them there need to be metrics in forensic science that require people to solve cases if they're consuming this evidence, not just run the evidence. That's super important to me. Write to your legislators and senators and tell them that families need to know early on in the investigation that DNA work is involved. Write to them and tell
Son
them
of a
that
gun.
funding needs to be.
I just went through that whole thing. Oh, damn me. I just went and just told you all what I just explained the difference between. Okay. So sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I had this, I thought I had myself unmuted. I was totally muted. Okay. So basically what it is STR is what they normally use in DNA, and they take like 20 different markers and they work from that. With her lab, they can use a minuscule, like a small amount. Like they don't even, they can work with the DNA they already have on profile. With this case, they did actually go back and they said, the FBI was like, we did put it in some like DNA websites. They said that it's not against the law. It was, what's that when you like break like violation code or something code, like one of those codes, like just, like it wasn't like as, I don't know. It was right in the fence there on that one. You thought my phone messed up. I'm so sorry. And I even had I had I had a bunch more that I said. It sounded a lot better when I was saying it the first time. But yeah, it's there's a lot. So basically they typical labs use single source DNA. Othram, they patent this, genetic grade genome sequencing kind of system. So
created for this new technology. Right now, CODIS testing is free to every
I'm just going to leave
agency
myself
in the United
unmuted.
States because it's subsidized by our federal government. Unfortunately, this type of testing is not. There are very limited budgets for this type of DNA testing. And even though it is probably the cheapest dollar to solve ratio, the easiest way to get to an answer, there's no money to do this type of DNA testing. So ask for funding to be created.
There's $5,000 per test that they make.
So that cases
A
don't
lot of
just
money.
stop at a DNA dead end at CODIS. If there is no CODIS hit, move on to this new technology quickly so that you can catch that perpetrator before they go out there and commit the next crime. We all know that this crime was heinous, horrible, and that this person was probably not going to never commit a crime again. They were probably going to do it again and again and again. Serial rapists are something that plague our communities on a daily basis. If we were able to stop everyone the first time they committed a crime, rather than the 15th, 16th, 5th, we would all live in a safer world. There would be so many of us out there. I am certain that there are people and kids at Thanksgiving with their families this year that would have been the next victim of Brian Kohlberger, and they're not, because this technology was used in real time. And so I hope and I pray that this technology starts to be used in real time for every case, not just the ones that make it to the media really quickly. Every single case, because every case has a family member that needs an answer out there. So if any of you are compelled to help in the advocacy efforts that Stacy and I are about to embark on together, please write to us, solve@othram.com. Tell us you're interested in being a part of it. I will get back in touch with you and tell you who to write to in your home state and who to talk to about adopting this technology. Our dream is that by the time I'm sitting on the stage again next year, Othram isn't the only lab using this technology. I want every state lab in the United States to have the funding to adopt and test this technology and become another Othram. There should be thousands of us out there solving cases the right way the first time and helping people like Stacy get answers and turn the page to the next chapter of her life, which for her is advocacy.
Lastly, I just want to say, and then we're going to take some questions. I have to say that my family is forever indebted to the family and the team that gave up their Thanksgiving in 2022 and solved the DNA in our case. But moving forward, and most importantly, if we can help other families, future families that will sadly be in the same position as our family, I hope that they know that Othram, I hope that they can know that Othram is involved in it. The peace of mind that they brought, that hug, going back to that hug at the very beginning, Jim and I relied on that hug a couple of our darkest days. We were like, Kristen said, don't worry. But the peace of mind that it brought our family was indescribable. And actually something I never told a soul about that hug other than Jim. I didn't tell my kids. I didn't tell my best friend. I didn't tell a soul. But the peace of mind that they brought our family is indescribable. And in addition, we need to work again on getting all law enforcement access to this technology. And so for all of that, thank you for what you do. The middlemans and all of Othram are not only really, really smart people, they're just good humans. So thank you. I think that's it. Yeah. Questions?
Thank you,
Yes.
Mega Mama.
All right, fire away.
Hello.
Oh my God,
Thanks
what's
for
my
being here
voice?
today. My question is for Kristen. A few hours ago, many of us sat in this room and listened to John Ramsey talk about his daughter's death.
I didn't know they were going to say that.
Have you two connected?
Yeah, can we
Yes,
connect?
we've had conversations.
But he doesn't have the DNA. Law enforcement don't they? And they won't give it up. Give up the DNA. Denver.
Enforcement working in that case is aware of our technology. In some cases, we can only get involved when law enforcement asks, and we can only announce whether we're involved in a case when law enforcement announces it. Like, I couldn't tell the world what had happened with this Kohlberger case, that when all that information was out there talking about multiple DNA profiles and this and that, and I knew that there was only one DNA profile, and it was from great DNA, and it was certain. In this case, I couldn't say a word. I can't comment on a case that law enforcement hasn't publicly announced information on. So I'm sorry about that, but I am connected to the family, and I do hope that one day we'll see that case solved as well.
Mm.
Hi, thank you. My question is for Stacy. Thanks so much for being here. I just wanted to know what the day was like when you found out that the case was solved and there was an arrest.
Yeah, it happened for us really late. We got the call. We had I don't want it to be too long, but we actually had a Moscow Police Department, an officer who was assigned to our family, and we would receive a phone call every single night, starting from day one. They called, they would update us. They would, do you have questions? It was our direct line to the case. We got the call on December 30th. December 30th? Is that right? Yeah, December 30th.
December 30th.
And it was actually like 11:30 at night. And I was doing something, and Jim was like, "It's kind of weird, but your phone's ringing right now." And I just answered it, and it was our contact. And he said, "Just so you know, we've just picked him up in Pennsylvania."
Probably slept good that night.
So it was, 11 o'clock our time, and then I think they went in at 2 a.m. Pennsylvania time. And so it had literally just happened when we received the phone call. And I just, I ran down and told the kids, and, it was a relief, because at that point we were trying to make a decision about putting our kids back in school, which we did successfully. But yeah, we didn't want him still out there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erica. I have more of a comment. Because of this horrible crime, I enrolled in a forensic investigative genetic genealogy program at the University of New Haven. And from there, I learned how to give law enforcement access to my DNA. So I took an ancestry test. Once the results are there, you can download them and upload them then to GEDmatch or Family Tree DNA, and you can opt in to give law enforcement access. So I would just encourage anyone else
Amazing.
to do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, so this exciting new DNA technology has not been tested in very many court cases yet. So how do you see the future of it in court cases? And do you think we'll see like defense experts challenge it, and how will juries look at it?
So absolutely, they will challenge it. Othram is, I think, the only company that has gone and defended this technology in many, many court cases across the United States. We have precedent in several different states now that this technology is admissible. We have never had someone not admit the technology or it not lead to a verdict yet. I'm very proud of that. We actually work with prosecution teams from the very beginning. After the arrest is made, we immediately start to work with prosecution teams, sometimes even before, and help create all of the documentation and paperwork necessary to take to trial and show so that this technology is defensible. But we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of markers pointing to one person. DNA technology, the standard DNA technology that has been going to court for 30 years is CODIS. It's looking at 20 markers. And in every case, including this one, the CODIS test is still done at the end to confirm our result. So we give that lead, and then they go in, they collect that DNA from Kohlberger, and then they take that DNA and they send it to an outside lab, the state lab in this case in Idaho, and they make that confirmation that that is 100% match to the DNA that was collected for CODIS initially. And so there are several ways to confirm the answer, but I hope we live in a world where people aren't scared to take this technology to court. It is robust, it is predictable, it's scalable, it works. I think it could stand on its own one day, and I look forward to the day where that precedent starts to be created. People are afraid to start using new technology because they say, well, what if we go to court and it doesn't work? I have an answer to that. If you don't use this new technology, that perpetrator's out there for decades longer, sometimes even more than that, committing those next crimes. And there are many more victims. So I think it's safer to take the bet, take it to court, and make sure you use a company that has all of these records, chain of custody, the accreditation that every other forensic lab has out there, so that you're not afraid of that when you get to court. But I don't feel like we should give these perpetrators a chance to be walking among us rather than trying to identify them using this DNA technology.
Great answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, Stacy, I want to thank you for sharing photos and videos of Ethan. You can tell he's a beautiful person that radiates through the screen.
Yeah.
As a mother myself, I often hear mothers of true crime. How do you process what has happened? And did you get a moment with him to actually process?
Are you talking about like process the actual loss of him?
Yes.
Okay.
Like they say that sometimes mothers, like if you don't see like an illness, like how do you process it?
It's an evolving process, I would have to say. You know, you go through, you know, I think probably all of the stages of grief. I mean, it's just, I still to this day look at his photo. He's you know, they talk about our case in the Othram booth in the hall, whatever that is. And I still look at his photo and think, you know, how did we ever get here? You know, I had worked hard to raise 3 really great kids, and you just do it. I mean, I remember a conversation that Jim and I had, and I've shared this story, so if you've heard it, but you know, you grieve. I walked it off, to be honest with you. I would walk night and day for probably the first 5 months. We have this poor dog, and our dog, I'd head out on my, you know, I mean, I'd get up in the middle of the night. We live in this very safe little town, and I'd look at the dog, and literally the poor Lolly would be like, Lolly, are you really going to take another walk right now? Because the dog would look at me and be like, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you, right? But I mean, for the first, you know, I just walked it off. I remember one day I was crying so hard out walking in town that I happened upon a woman, and she was like, would you like me to call 911? Oh. You know, and it's just a process. And I will tell you, it gets better. It's different. Like we've just had to learn to live differently. For a very long time when we would gather, the 4 of us, there was a hole, and it was hard. And we all, you know, it was the elephant in the room. And then, you know, you just work through it. Now the 4 of us, when we're together, it's very different, that we don't feel that so much.
I admire your family very greatly.
Thank you. But the one thing that I want to say is that it was a morning in March, and Jim and I were having coffee, which is kind of our, you know, when we gather our thoughts for the day. And, you know, we were crying in our coffee one more morning. I mean, it was literally 5 months of crying in our coffee. And we just literally, there was a moment that morning, Jim was like, okay, Stace, from this state, we cannot change the outcome. There is nothing we can do to change the outcome on this. And you have a choice. We just decided we had a choice that day, how you process it. And on that day, we decided from this day forward, we will get up, shower, take a walk, and live our best life. And the motivator for me as a mom, honestly, is that Maisie and Hunter do not deserve to have parents that have derailed. And that is my motivating factor. And I live by that.
You know, she just said that she admires you. I admire you. You know, Stacy talks about the Othram team and the goodness.
No, it's not true.
But
I'm always like, they're like, do you want to do an interview? I'm like, don't interview me. You need to interview the middlemen. They're way cooler than.
The truth
They're way
is,
cooler than.
she is really, she embodies strength in a way that I have never seen before. And I admire it. And if Othram solved only Stacy's case and we were sitting here today, and I could say it for every one of the cases we worked on, you guys are here for, it would be enough. It would have been worth building Othram and doing what we did. But the fact that we've been able to do this thousands of times and pushes me to really ask, why aren't we doing this hundreds of thousands of times? Why aren't we doing this for every case? And that's where we need to shift our mindsets to a future where everyone can sit here and say, we got that answer quickly.
Yeah. It's important.
Hi, kind of going along with that, do you have any plans to expand Othram into more cities or more labs?
It's going to be Idaho. It's going to be Idaho Othram.
Stacy's going to be running it.
I'm just kidding.
No, we are. Yes, we have worked really hard to figure out how to make this technology deployable to others. And we have built software that others can use to be able to do the things that we do. Someone stood up here and talked about learning FGG, forensic genetic genealogy at New Haven. I hope that universities start to implement some of these tools, some of this software that we're using to actually get to these answers quicker. Hope universities start to create entire programs where you intersect genomics with the genealogy so that you can have that full knowledge, because that's what it takes to really work these cases. It's different. And I look forward to that being part of the education system in the future. We're working, trying to help create some of those programs. We have training courses now, but we hope that there's thousands of Othrams in the next few years.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for being here, Mrs. Chapin. I wanted to read it. My sister couldn't be here, but she wanted to let you know she was lucky enough to see the field of Ethan Smiles tulips last season, and she sent me a picture. And I just think that's wonderful that you're doing that. You affect so many people. We lost my brother in a car accident, and I saw my parents go through the grieving of losing a son. Right. And they've never been the same. And I think that the healthy part is sharing your experience and hope. And I really appreciate you coming here, because I'm sure this brings back so many things, but it's such a healing place. And you found your tribe. My question is this, is why with this technology, why isn't it used? Is it just the expense of it? Why was it used in this case? Why can't we use it in other cases? That's kind of what I'm wondering right now. If it's so great, I know it's such, that's an open-ended question, but why was it used in this case in particular? How did we get there?
It was used in this case because a whole bunch of things aligned. The agency that was working the case had worked with Othram before and knew the technology worked and knew what it was capable of. It was lucky. Could have happened somewhere else, and that wouldn't have been the case.
Yeah, we've talked about this because you have to understand that his DNA didn't hit in CODIS. And so the reason it got to Othram is because the forensic, the Idaho State Patrol forensic, correct me if I'm wrong, scientist who was working the case knew about Othram. And when the DNA didn't hit in CODIS, that they decided, they were like, hey, he was like, I know a company that I think can help us. But understand that Washington State University, where he was employed, is 7 miles and also a different state. And had it happened in Washington State, that had, somebody been working the case and they didn't know about it, that they would potentially not have had the same outcome.
Which is devastating. So just like CODIS testing, DNA testing to confirm someone's identity is now paid by the federal government, by grants, and allowed for every law enforcement agency to use, this technology to infer someone's identity should also be subsidized by federal government, state government grants.
Yeah.
And so we're advocating for that. We have several states across the US, I think we're up to 14 now, that have funding for this technology. There are some federal bills out there that continue to grow in the funding they allow for this technology. I think in the next few years, you'll see that continue to grow. As it grows, this becomes a more certain field. I think you'll see people come in and jump into this field. I think you see educators create these programs, like I said, and we'll live in a very different world 10 years from now where there are no cold cases. Perpetrators get caught the first time they commit a crime. And hopefully they think and know that if they commit a crime, they will leave DNA and they will get caught. It's a matter of time. And this becomes a deterrent. We all live in a safer world.
Right. Last question.
Hi, real quick. I live in New Jersey and I have Ethan tulips.
Aw.
And last year they bloomed in
Yes, they're
all their glory on Easter.
Oh,
Aww.
sweet. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was sweet.
Yeah.
I'll end on
Okay,
that.
I think that's it.
Thank you,
I
guys.
like how she called
Thank you
them.
for having us.
I like how she called him Ethan's tulips. I thought that was cute. That lady was really sweet at the end. I love the powder blue suit. I love me a light blue number. I need to know where she got it. I don't think it wrinkled the whole time she was sitting there. I need to know where she got her suit. Stacy Chapin, that's what I want to know. Beautiful. She looks beautiful in it. And I noticed her blue ring is like the same color as like the blue, like her Ethan smiles, or whatever they're, the Ethan's laugh like, or is it laugh like Ethan or live like Ethan? Her bracelets that she still wears. They match that ring. So it must have been like, I know that blue was her color for him. So maybe that's why she wore the blue powder suit too. I don't know. I'm loving that. I'm loving it. I like both of their outfits. Actually, they complement each other very well. Now, if you want to know more about Autherm Labs and what they do and how they do what they do, I'll put the link to this YouTube video in the chat if you guys want to watch it. It was just her. It was from 9 months ago, and it's just it says a killer walked free for a quarter of a century before new technology, and she explains like how they take it and what machines they put it through, and how they do all that. Now I know when I was in college, it's a while ago, we didn't learn about genealogy. We learned about DNA, but we didn't learn about an investigative genetic genealogy anyway. I wish we would have. Yeah, I think that yeah, yeah. I do it up here. Like sometimes I'll giggle and it's like not the appropriate time. If I ever do that, it's my own trauma. It's nothing to do with the case that we're covering. It's just me feeling some type of way. You know what I mean? Like I know that there's been times where I've said or done something that was probably out of pocket, but we do things like that. It's human nature, and just gotta, just make sure we're not. Yeah, I would cope the same way, Ashley. Night pills, a lot of them. Give me some more. Gonna need the strongest ones you got, Doc. I know that when my mom lost my father, she couldn't say his name for like 6 years without crying. Like she couldn't even say his name. Like I do that too. I laugh when I'm nervous, or if someone's like yelling at me. See, I'm about to laugh just thinking about it. If someone's yelling at me, like if someone gets really mad at me, like especially on the internet. Like if it's I don't know, like there's not a lot of people that get mad at me, but there have been times where there have been a couple people that have been mad at me, and the more people scream at me, the more I laugh. And it's just, it must be like an awkward thing I do. I just laugh. I'm like, I know this isn't the right response. This isn't the one that you want, but you know. Tracy, I thought about going back to school, but I just finally got my student loans paid off. I mean, it's been a couple of years, but it took, I mean, I graduated in 2011, I think it was. So it took a little while to pay off those college dues. But that's all I have for you guys tonight. I think tomorrow what we'll do is we'll go over, if we don't go over the podcast tomorrow, we'll go over it the next night, but we'll probably go over the Idaho podcast tomorrow. It's the unsealed files. So it's just all the stuff that they've put out. Also, I want to do a Gilgo Beach, Long Island serial killer live. There's a new documentary that came out over that, and I thought it looked really good, and I wanted to watch that with you guys. Also, if I ever went to CrimeCon, I would find Joseph Scott Morgan for you guys. I would find him. I would have to, right? And then Nancy, of course. I would probably go, I would be that weird, like I'd be like that JLR, you know, he's like that guy that's always yelling at people like outside of the courthouse. That'd be like me with Nancy though. Hey, Nancy. Hey, Nancy. I think that'd be funny. I think that'd be hilarious. Or if I just walked around with her cardboard cutout, who could not walk up to me if I just stood there with her cardboard cutout? The people would come to me. They'd be like, well, what are you doing with this Nancy cardboard cutout? Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. Yeah, where is Ash? She must be sleeping good tonight. She must be sleeping good. But I'm going to jump off here. I have an actual doctor's appointment myself tomorrow. It's the eye doctor. So we're going to hear what they have to say. I am going to not tell them anything that's wrong. I'm just going to say, check my eyes. And you tell me. That's what I'm going to start telling all my doctors that. You tell me what's wrong. I'm just going to stand here. Because I feel like I might be getting astigmatism. But I don't want to say something and then them just be like, oh, you know what I mean? Like I've been going to this doctor for years, but I don't know. I'm just getting older and I'm getting a little worried. That's all. I can't really read the small book print anymore, like or regular book print. You know, like it's kind of like a little bit on my eyes. So I'm just going to go there tomorrow and be like, you tell me what's wrong with me. And you know, it's my favorite part. I should videotape this. I should videotape this tomorrow because they do it every single time. They will hand me, you know how like they hand you something and it's like that little thing and you put it over your eyeball, like, and you say the letters with one eye and then you move it. Okay. You don't have to give me one, right? I've only got one eye, but they hand it to me every time. And I'll just put it up and use it anyway. Like, I just think it's so funny. They should call security if I have Nancy on there. If I had my Nancy, they should probably call security right away. They should, yeah. But I will meet her one of these days. I will. I saw her. She did a video too, and she was laughing. Like she had like a smile on her face. It was a serious topic, but I think they just got her when she was actually just smiling. And I was like, whoa, we don't see that Nancy often. But yeah, I'll be back on. I'll let you guys know what happens tomorrow. I mean, hopefully I don't have to get new glasses because I mean, I've had these for 3 years. I didn't even know I've had these that long. I think you're supposed to get a new pair every year, but I like my glasses. I don't want to change. So that's what I think about that. But thank you guys all for being here tonight. I do appreciate it. I thought this was a really good live. I thought this was a really good podcast or video to go over. Gives you a little bit of a look on the Chapins, and this is what Stacy wants to do. She wants to help Authorm Labs, and I think that's a great idea. Jim in the picture looked like he was just smiling from ear to ear, so he seems pretty happy too. And they have their kids; they're out of the nest. They're off. They're doing their thing, and this will give them something to kind of do. And then they have like different galas and different things like that they could hold each year, and just charities and. I could see them doing that. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I do appreciate it. I will see you guys all tomorrow. sometime on my live. I'll be live either during the day sometime or after or late evening, or not late evening time. But thank you guys for being here again. I will see you guys later. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe, the like button, all the buttons. Bye guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how.